Welcome students, this is teacher Padma and today we'll start with the fourth chapter. The name of the chapter is Key Elements of a Democratic Government. In the last chapter I already explained about what is government and types of government, and one of the type of government was democratic government. So in this chapter we'll study about some of the key elements that influence the working of a democratic government. These include rule by the people, that is, people choose the government through election, justice and equality, then basic human rights to every citizen, like right to freedom of religion, right to information, right to travel and settle anywhere in the country, and so on. So these are some of the elements of democratic government. So students, in this chapter we'll study about some of the key elements that influence the working of a democratic government. So let's get started. South Africa is a country that has people of several races. There are black people who belong to South Africa, whites who came there to settle, and Indians who came as laborers and traders. Now, Maya Naidu, an 11-year-old South African girl, was helping her mother clear up her old boxes. She found a scrapbook full of pictures and newspaper articles. There were many pictures of a young schoolboy of around 15 years of age. When she asked her mother who the boy was, she was told that he was called Hector Nudlovo. He had been shot by the police. Maya was shocked. Why? She asked. Her mother explained that South Africa was earlier governed by apartheid laws. Now, apartheid means separation on the basis of race. South African people were divided into white, black, Indian, and colored races. Now, according to the law, these races were not allowed to mingle with each other, to live near each other, or even to use common facilities. Even the hospitals and ambulances were separate. Ambulances meant only for the whites, and only whites had more facilities and were well equipped. Then non-whites were not allowed to vote. The best land in the country was reserved only for the white people, and non-whites had to live on the worst available land. The black people were discriminated and denied all basic human rights. Now coming back to the story, Maya could not believe her ears. Maya's mother sounded angry when she spoke about life under apartheid. She told Maya that in those days hospitals were separate and so were ambulances. There were separate trains and buses. Even the bus stops were different for black and white people. These blacks and colored people were not considered to be equal to whites. One black township was the Southwestern Township. Hector Nudlovo lived here, and he and his classmates joined the protest against learning the Afrikaans language in school. This was the language that the whites spoke. The South African police beat up the protesters mercilessly and shot at the crowd. One of their bullets killed Hector, and this was on 30th of April 1976. The African National Congress, a group of people who led the struggle against apartheid, and their most well-known leader, Nelson Mandela, fought the apartheid system for several years. And finally, they succeeded, and in 1994, South Africa became a democratic country in which people of all races are considered equal. All people are born equal and enjoy the right to life, liberty, and property. If a section of the people are denied these rights, it will create conflicts in the society. No one has the right to suppress others. Conflicts occur when people of different cultures, religions, or economic backgrounds do not get along with each other, or if some feel that they are being discriminated. People may use violent means to settle their differences, and then this leads to fear and tension among others living in the same area. Now, who should resolve these conflicts? The government is responsible for helping to resolve conflicts. The Constitution lays down the basic rules or laws for the country, and that they have to be followed by everyone. These laws are both for the people and the government, and conflicts have to be resolved according to these laws. Students, have you ever heard of Nelson Mandela? If no, then listen. Mandela and his African National Congress spent a lifetime fighting against apartheid. Nelson Mandela had to spend 30 years in prison. And finally, democratic elections were held in South Africa in 1994, and Nelson Mandela became the first black president of a new nation. Nelson Mandela's African National Congress Party won 252 of the 400 seats in the first democratic elections of South Africa's history. Nelson Mandela was a South African anti-apartheid revolutionary, political leader and philanthropist who served as a president of South Africa from 1994 to 1999. He was the country's first black head of state and the first elected in a fully representative democratic election. He was born on 18 July 1918 in Mizo in South Africa and died on 5 December in Houghton, South Africa. His death is being marked by people around the world. He was a symbol of peace, having presided over the transition from apartheid to multiracial democracy and having pursued a plan of national reconciliation. Next, participation. Now, do we have regular elections? You have already read in the previous chapter that people make the decisions in a democracy. Now, how they make? Through voting in elections. People elect leaders to represent them, and these representatives take decisions on behalf of the people. All governments are elected for fixed periods. In India, this period is 5 years. Once elected, governments can stay in power only for that period, that is 5 years. And if they want to continue to be in power, then they have to be re-elected by the people. This is a moment when people can sense their power in a democracy. In this way, the power of the government gets limited by regular elections. Now, other ways of participating. Elections are usually held once in 5 years. Besides voting, there are other ways of participating in the process of government. People participate by taking an interest in the working of the government and by criticizing it when required. For example, now, when a particular government increased the money people had to pay for electricity, people expressed their disapproval very sharply. How they did that? They took out rallies and also organized a signature campaign. The government tried to explain and defend its decision, but finally listened to the people's opinion and withdrew the increase. The government had to change its decision because it is responsible to the people. There are many other ways also in which people express their views and make governments understand what actions they should take. Now, these include dharnas, rallies, strikes, signature campaigns, etc. Things that are unfair and unjust are also brought forward through newspapers, magazines, and TV. These also play a role in discussing government's issues and responsibilities. So students, next time when you see a rally through the streets of our cities and towns or villages, what you have to do? You should pause to find out what the rally is all about, who is participating in it, and what they are protesting about. Now, this will help you all to give a sense of how our government works. Then next, need to resolve conflicts. In Maya's story, I've explained how conflicts can often lead to violence and death because one group decides that it is all right to use force to prevent the other group from protesting. Conflict meaning a fight or an argument. When there is a difference between two or more ideas, there is conflict. Now, conflict can be good or bad also. Conflicts has the capacity not only to cause harm and pain, but also create a positive change for us. It opens our eyes to new ideas, leads to solution. But it can be destructive also. It can create tension. For example, when it is destructive, when people use violent means to settle their differences, then it leads to tension and fear among others. Conflicts can be resolved through non-violent means also. Religious processions and celebrations can sometimes lead to conflicts. For example, the route of procession may lead to a conflict. The government or particularly the police play an important role in getting representatives of concerned communities to meet and try and arrive at a solution. At times there is a fear that violence may erupt with people throwing stones or trying to disrupt the procession. Now, the police is responsible for ensuring that violence does not take place in that particular area. Now, this is within area. But between states, rivers too can become a source of conflict between states. A river may begin in one place, flow through another, and end in a third place. The sharing of river water between different places that the river goes through is becoming an issue of conflict. Now, for example, Kaveri water dispute between Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. Now, here the water stored in Krishnasagar Dam in Karnataka is used for irrigating a number of districts and for meeting the needs of the city of Bangalore. The water stored in Mettur Dam in Tamil Nadu is used for crops grown in the delta region of that state. Now, a conflict arises because both dams are on the same river. The downstream dam in Tamil Nadu can only be filled up if water is released from the upstream one located in Karnataka. Therefore, both states can't get as much water as they need for people in their states, that is Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. Then this leads to conflict. Now the central government has to step in and see that a fair distribution is worked out for both states. It's a big issue where two states are being involved, so a central government has to step in and see that the conflict is resolved through non-violent means. Now we come to equality and justice. I'll repeat again, the key ideas of a democratic government are: first, right of the people to vote in the elections, re-election of the government after a fixed period, then the people carry out campaigns and rallies, responsible government, then government resolves disputes and conflicts, and the last one, justice and equality to all. Equality and justice are inseparable. Now, who are untouchables? Untouchables were the low caste people in the Indian society. This group of people was denied education, transport, medical facilities, and they were not even allowed to enter any temples. Now, this untouchability is an inhuman and derogatory practice. Now, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar said that such practice must not continue and that justice can only be achieved when people are treated equally. Untouchability means that a section of the people are denied basic human rights. So this is one example. The second example is groups within society that are unequal. For example, in our society there is a general tendency to value and care for the boy child more than the girl child. Gender inequality refers to health, education, economical and political inequalities between men and women. Now, girls had to face gender discrimination at all levels. Though now things have changed, but still in some places, girls still have to face this discrimination. At the household level, females were confined to the household chores, that is looking after the family, raising children, etc. And at workplace, limited opportunities, and even if they get a job, they were paid less. So limited job opportunities and they were paid less. Gender-wise literacy rates in India shows wide gap. Why? Because the parents are unwilling to send their girls to school. They are not in favor of girls' education because they feel woman is of no use, meaning even if they study, what they will do in the future, they will only serve their husbands and in-laws. There are so many girls still today, they are shut out of education because of this discrimination and poverty. Although the Constitution of India grants equal opportunity to men and women, this discrimination is still alive. Gender discrimination has been a social issue in India. This discrimination starts right before even a girl child is born. Society sees women as inferior to men. Girl child is considered as a burden. Now the need of the hour is to make a change in the mindset of the society and destroy this prejudice. It is high time that every girl child is treated equally, respected and given equal opportunities required. Girl child also want to learn, fulfill their dreams and become something in life. Society does not value the girl and boy child equally, and this is unjust. In this context, the government steps in to promote justice by providing special provisions that can enable girls to overcome the injustice that are subjected to them. Thus, it is possible that fees for girls might be, now here this is just an example given, okay, waived or lowered in government schools or colleges. Now, how do you think lowering the school fees would help girls attend school? As I've explained, discrimination is also there, but poverty is another reason. Now, very often the parents do not send their daughters to school because they cannot afford to pay the fees. Now, but if the fees are lower, then more people will send their daughters to school. Now, the parents are unwilling to send girls to school because they feel that in the future they will only serve the husbands and their in-laws. So why to spend so much money on girls' education? But if the fees are lower, they might think of sending the girls to school. So with this we come to an end of this chapter. Thank you, students.